So the recent BRICS Summit just took place, and if you don't know what BRICS is, I'm going to describe it to you as what you would normally see a tankie describe it to their audience, as this is the new up and coming organization that is going to destroy the unipolar world order and usher in a new multipolar world order that is going to really challenge the IMF and the World Bank. The reality is that this grouping of countries, of course, BRICS refers to Brazil, Russia, India, and China. Have they actually ever achieved that? Have they actually ever proven to be a alternative to the IMF or even the World Bank? Um, no, no, not at all. The reality is that all these countries have very, very different ideologies. I mean, Brazil at the moment, that's done by Lula. Lula is very, very much a socialist who is completely against both the authoritarianism in China and Russia, and has condemned those countries quite strongly. Um, India, meanwhile, has huge beef with China for a number of reasons along its own borders, and of course, does everything it does on a regular basis to try and challenge China economically and militarily in a lot of places. Meanwhile, of course, Russia, well, is Russia, and their economy going forward after this is going to be in an absolute shambles, because I'll tell you now, these sanctions that they are currently facing not going to be removed anytime soon, and yet their economy is slowly lurching on, and the real state of it, honestly, we don't know, but it is honestly some sort of Frankenstein abomination. Probably we'll get the true numbers, what was really going on, maybe in like a couple of years, maybe if it ever really gets leaked. Ukraine has actually said their economy is in absolute terrible shambles because they've had internal documents. This is why Putin has said a number of times next year there needs to be peace talks. Because next year might be a very crunch year for it, and it's going to be interesting to see, can Russia actually survive, or at least keep on funding this folly too much longer. But some interesting things did happen, because if you're especially Putin, BRICS is a moment to really once again try and demonstrate that Russia is a key power player here, and really once again demonstrate that Russia on the world stage. However, this BRICS summit backfired on Putin massively so. Massively so. There were so many calls for peace during this stuff. So some of this stuff instantly said, so Foreign Ministry of Kiev said said that Moscow had failed now to win any support for its invasion of Ukraine at the BRICS summit, and is now hosting it, where Putin faces directly calls to end the conflict from some of his closest and most important partners. The BRICS summit, in which Russia then planned to use to try and split the world, has once again demonstrated that the world majority remains on the side of Ukraine in its quest to now guarantee a comprehensive and sustainable peace. The ministry said the Chinese president Xi Jinping told the summit that there must be no escalation of fighting in Ukraine, saying, "We adhere to the three principles of no spillover from the battlefield, no escalation of fighting, and no adding oil to the fire by relevant parties, so as to ease the situation as soon as possible." Meanwhile, Brazil of Lula da Silva called for avoiding escalation and inciting peace negotiations. Without referring to any specific conflict, the then Indian Prime Minister Modi also issued a call for peace, saying that we support dialogue and diplomacy, not war. So all these countries can really recognize the fact this war that they have initiated, that Russia initiated, and remember, Russia is relying on all these countries, especially China and India, to buy its oil at knockdown prices, which is great for their economies, but terrible for Russia. Would not surprise me if, like last year, we saw that Russia, what was meant to be this massive petro state, this oil rich dependent state, somehow running out of oil domestically for people's heating. Will that happen again this winter? Who knows? It could very, very well likely once again on that front. But that was not the end of it. That was not the end of it. So Putin then said that he did welcome offers of the BRIC leaders to actually mediate in Ukraine, even as he told them that his forces were advancing and is on this. But other stuff then came out as well on this. So the US and the White House has said that North Korean troops are now legitimate targets and fair game if they engage in combat in Ukraine. Because remember, this is something that is going on as well. There's about 10,000 troops meant to be being deployed by them by December. Now, what those troops are going to do, we don't know. Whether they will fulfill combat roles, we don't know whether they're going to do logistic support, whether they'll just dig trenches. We don't know. Like I say, we'll wait and see that. But it is good to see the White House going, well, tell you what, if they engage in combat, fair game. But gets even worse because now you've got Lukashenko, a Belarusian president, who, bear in mind, to stay in power had to become a client state of Russia. This is what he had said about this in interviews. So he said that Putin, of course, deploying forces in the Ukrainian conflict would now likely lead to an escalation, now possibly involving NATO troops. Lukashenko claimed that it was rubbish that North Korean troops were going to be fighting in Ukraine. He said, knowing his character, Putin would never try to persuade another country to involve its army in a Russian special operation in Ukraine. It would be a step towards the escalation of the conflict if the armed forces of another country, even Belarus, were on the contact line. That would prompt Ukrainian allies to point out foreign involvement, so NATO troops would then be deployed to Ukraine. So instantly, he's again another one of his key allies is like, there's no North Korean troops being deployed there, but we all know they're being deployed there. There's all this intelligence screaming, yeah, North Korean troops being deployed. So this is now once again this is an embarrassment. This was an embarrassment of a conference because Putin wanted support for his war, really wanted support for his war, and that's what he was hoping for. But every single leader there, from Xi Jinping, Lula da Silva to Modi, all turn around and went, we are, supporting peace. We do not want escalation, and we would far prefer, any diplomatic path that was on the table. This, I think, does represent a bad start to Putin, especially again if Harris wins, and God, I hope she wins. But the only hope Putin has now is for a Trump win. That is the only hope he has. Because we know Trump full well will just throw Ukraine under the bus. And if he does that, then we as Europe will really, really have to step up. And hopefully with some of the stuff that South Korea has been doing, because again of the actions of North Korea, looks like they are going to sort of heavily step up and send more weapons to support Ukraine as well, which will be good. Don't get me wrong, but it's really, we in Europe need to step up, and I think it is a big, big, big thing of rebuilding a lot of lost military capacity. Um, the defense deal we just signed with Germany, uh, bringing a new factory opening up here in the UK to sort of build artillery barrels. Uh, that is a good step, rebuilding that capacity. However, again, we need more of that. We need more of this, like, cross support military, defense stuff right across Europe, because we can't rely on the US fully at this point. We cannot rely on the US if Donald Trump wins, because we've got no goddamn idea what the hell he would do. We've got ideas because he's said quite a lot, but the reality is, you don't know what he would do. If, Article 5 was pressed, would Donald Trump come to the aid of Latvia if, like, Russia had just taken a border town and just said, no, that's it, we're just taking this border town, that's all we're doing? There's a lot to be said where you had Biden saying every single inch of NATO territory will be defended. Would Donald Trump make that same statement? I don't think so. I don't think so at all. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.